Welcome to the Plant Cunning Podcast,
where we explore a relationship to plants, other people, and the mysteries of nature.
Coming to you from the high Allegheny Plateau in central New York.
We are your hosts, A.C. Stauble
and Isaac Hill. Welcome to the Plant Cunning Podcast, 2026 Year Ahead Astro Forecast, focusing on the winter quarter with Zamboni Funk. We are talking about a lot of very interesting space weather that we have this year, including the Neptune and Saturn conjunction at 0 degrees Aries. And just so folks know, apparently the last time this happened, Neptune and Saturn at 0 degrees Aries, was about 6000 BC. And the last time that there was a conjunction in the early degrees of Aries was around 600 BC, which was at the beginning of the axial age. So with Saturn and Neptune, we're looking at rules of spirituality and religion. And there are some major things that happened in that time period. So we can expect similar kinds of things to happen in this time period. It'll probably be the most important conjunction in our lifetime, with effects that we won't even see in our lifetimes. We'll talk a little bit about that. We'll talk about the pileup in Capricorn in January. We'll talk about Uranus going to Gemini, and a lot more. Before we get to it, I want to let folks know that I am offering a New Year's deal for my Vedic astrology readings. It's $120 for 90 minutes. Usually it's $150 for 90 minutes, but I got to scrounge up some money for my tuition. So come email me at info@plantcunning.com, and we can set up a date to look at your chart and read your karma. So again, email me at info@plantcunning.com before January 1st, and you can get that deal. And again, I really am thankful for everybody who listens to this podcast. Thank you for commenting, for sharing, for liking, and for being a Patreon patron, which really helps make sure that we, keep this going. So thank you, and I hope you enjoy the episode, and Happy New Year. So it's the Year Ahead Astro Forecast with Zamboni Funk. Very excited to look at what 2026 has in store for us, and especially the winter quarter, Q1. So, Zamboni, how have you been doing this last fall, this quarter?
What's up? What's up, y'all? It's good to be here. I always appreciate being here with y'all. It has been a real time for me. We're just coming off of these squares to so everybody's been in Sagittarius for a while and square to Saturn in Pisces, and so I've been really feeling that crunch of Sagittarius is pretty rowdy and wants to get stuff done, but making a square to Saturn, there's a halt on all of that basically. And
Yeah.
so I have really been feeling the obstacles and the challenge of all of that. And so I'm actually pretty excited for, as we move into the new year, for stuff to move into Capricorn. And because I always think of Capricorn as being kind of rugged, and there's a sense of possibility there that I like. Capricorn has this reputation for being really dark, and it's malefic, and Mars is exalted there. So not only is it ruled by Saturn, but the other malefic Mars also is powerful there. So there's something that's a little bit scary about Capricorn, and Capricorn gets a bad rap sometimes. And that is pretty true, I find. But I find that I also really like malefics because they get shit done. And
Right.
I think that there is strong possibility for that, and I'm kind of looking forward to it,
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is the depths of winter, but
Yeah,
sometimes you
dark
just
out here.
gotta have some cold, hard reality to get going.
Yeah. That Capricorn, grin and bear it energy of we're just doing this, it's snowing out, and but we gotta reach our goal,
hmm
So
It's really ambitious,
it
Capricorn,
is. Yeah, definitely.
and one of the things that I like about this Capricorn season is that it's not just the sun there in Capricorn, but Mars is there in Capricorn as well. And so, as I just mentioned, Mars is exalted there. Mars is really good at doing Mars stuff in this position. And one of the things that I like about Mars in Capricorn is it's all of the drive of Mars, but with blinders on, so it can be focused.
Nice.
And so I like that energy. And Venus is there as well. And Mercury will be there in just a minute as well. And so then there's a whole pileup of folks there in Capricorn. And all of them are opposite to Jupiter. So
Yeah.
that doesn't look super comfortable for Jupiter, but it looks like Jupiter is in position to turn on all of the ambitious Capricorn stuff. And
Mm.
so to me, that feels a little bit like wheeling and dealing a little bit. You know what I mean? Like I got some moves that I'm trying to make and I need some help to make that happen. I need somebody else to participate in this thing that I'm trying to build. And Jupiter looks like it's saying yes to that for the first month of the year or so. And that looks like it is at least, if not comfortable, it at least looks capable and competent.
Yeah.
And
Mm.
I like those things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and Capricorn is the 10th house of the natural zodiac, like that's the place to get work
Mm-hmm.
done. It's that workplace and the Saturn aspect of work, like
Hmm.
getting it done. Um, but with Jupiter there in Cancer,
Hmm.
um, he's exalted and aspecting everybody there, but he's also retrograde. So I wonder, like, what do you see about that? How do you see the retrograde aspect of Jupiter working out?
Sure. So I don't really spend too much effort thinking about Jupiter retrogrades or anyone Jupiter or further out.
Mm,
So the moment of the station on
yeah.
either side can be a moment, a focal point where there is an extra push for whatever that planet is doing. So a
Mhm.
Jupiter station or a Saturn station will be a moment where there's extra emphasis on Jupiter or Saturn things, especially in whatever condition it is. But during the retrograde, like Jupiter is going to be retrograde for like 4 months. So
Right.
this is a third of total time. And so, maybe Jupiter is not exactly moving forward on everything. And maybe things are going to be moving a little bit slower than they would otherwise or something like this. But like, I don't really think that is, I don't think Jupiter just being retrograde is a super strong signal the way that a Venus retrograde or a Mars retrograde is an important thing to look at because it is so rare
Mhm.
relative to the amount of total time that there is.
Yeah.
So, in this instance, if we're thinking with Jupiter retrograde and being opposite to everyone there in Capricorn, so in Capricorn, everyone is under the beams of the sun. So the sun is
Yeah.
there in Capricorn as well. And so that means that we're not going to be able to see any of those planets. That means that so if we go back to this idea of like wheeling and dealing and like there's something like a little bit I'm thinking about Birdman a little bit. Like, yeah, I got this. Like the power moves from the back. You know what I mean? Like it's this sense of invisible power plays. What you see is Lil Wayne out here getting it, but really Birdman is the one getting paid on this. And so
Right.
there
Yeah.
is something there that feels like it's really powerful to me. And so Jupiter moving backwards at the same time is kind of more of this back room kind of energy, you know?
Yeah.
Mm.
So this is a really good time for planning that kind of thing, for making these behind the scenes transactions or deals or whatever it is that you need to do in order to set yourself up for the long-term vision.
Yeah. Yeah. And in the tradition of Vedic astrology that I practice in, we see the retrograde more as like because in traditional Western astrology, retrograde is bad. It's a bad thing. Um,
Hmm.
you don't want a retrograde planet on the ascendant or anything like that. But in Vedic astrology, we see the retrograde as making that planet more like stubborn.
Hmm.
It's gonna like
Hmm.
try again and again and again to get what it wants.
Oh, sure. Persistent.
Um, yeah, yeah. So I kind of see that. That's kind of what I see with that aspect of Jupiter. It's like he's really like it might not. It's in a way it's making that all that Capricorn energy even more um persistent. Like we're gonna get this done one way or the other.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
But the other side of that is that all those planets are under the beams. They are like, and all those planets are going to be combusted, and they're going to go have their secret meeting with the sun. You know,
Hmm.
come into the sun's.
So what planets exactly are in this pile up in January in Capricorn?
So we've got the sun there in Capricorn,
Mhm.
Mars is in Capricorn, Venus is in Capricorn, and those actually all conjoin at the same time. All three of them are at, I think, 19 degrees of Capricorn, opposite to Jupiter at 20 degrees of Cancer. So
Oh,
it looks like it's a really big deal in between those three and Jupiter. And then also Mercury is nearby. I think Mercury's at like
okay.
12 degrees or something like that at that time.
Mhm.
And so there's those four planets that are all piled up there
Okay.
opposite to Jupiter. And so, if we're thinking about Sun and Mars together looks very authoritative. It looks like it's very strong on executive function. And, so one of the things that I think can be really useful with that kind of thing is even if you don't necessarily know which direction the right direction is, going in a direction gives you some information that can be helpful and along your journey. It's often
Yeah.
more profitable to go at 100 miles an hour in the wrong direction than it is to stay still and learn nothing. And
Sure.
Mm.
so it's this idea that failure is the most rich stream of information possible, right? So, Sun and Mars in Capricorn is going to be really good at that kind of executive function. Then we add Venus into that mix, and Venus is not super powerful in this position, not only because Venus is under the beams of the sun, and so Mars is also under the beams of the sun, but Mars is exalted, and so kind of doesn't suffer in the same way from, I like to think of the beams of the sun as being like static in the signal. Like you can't hear exactly what's on the radio because there's a bunch of noise in the right,
Mhm.
that kind of thing. Like you
Yeah.
can't see the planet because there's other light in the way.
Hmm.
So Venus really suffers from that because Mars is exalted here, because Mars has that essential dignity. Mars doesn't suffer in that same way. But Venus is going to be a little bit less capable of bringing the cooperative energy here. And so, really, to me, this looks like being able to marshal one's desires. If we think of Venus as being a planet that is associated with desire function, then there's something here that is about maybe not even paying attention to one's desires as much as the need to actually make something productive and ambitious happen. So if I need to put my uh, desire for sweet things on the shelf for a minute while I handle my business, then that's what I'm going to do. And that to me looks like it is really capable. And I feel like there's a lot of potential there.
Mm,
Mm.
great. Makes sense.
I, for one, am going to be riding that wave a little bit. There's going to be new Zamboni Funk music that will come out during this time period. So,
Really? Okay.
mhm.
Exciting.
Because the other side, I mean, with combust planets is like they're like invisible, you know.
Mhm.
So they're how do you? Well, it's like also like it feels like they're like this January. It's like very quiet. Like there's a lot of like there's you're gonna see in the sky just Jupiter, you know.
Mhm.
You're not gonna
Totally.
see those planets.
Real
So
bright Jupiter too. Like this is a great time if you want to go outside and see what Jupiter looks like to your eyes. This is a great
Hmm.
time to see it because Jupiter will be up when the sky is darkest, when the sun
Yeah.
is as far away from up as possible. When the sun is at the midnight point, then Jupiter is going to be high in the sky
Mhm.
and Jupiter shines really brightly already. So this is really good Jupiter viewing time.
mm,
Cool.
yeah, and then retrograde too.
Hmm. Yeah,
But
and the retrograde is the time when Jupiter or any planet Mars and out, the retrograde is the best time to view that planet because it's when it is furthest from the
farthest
sun. It's when it's
away from the
opposite to
sun.
the
Mhm.
sun, and so
Yeah,
you can see it really well. It shines really brightly.
yeah,
Makes
yeah.
sense.
Right. Cool. So, I also see this pile up in January is a good time to do some, it's a good time to do some planning, like checking
Hmm.
back in, like all those planets are having their conference with the sun.
Mm.
So you're like doing this, conferring. Um,
It also might be a good time to, you know, so one of the things that I notice about this year is that um, we've got Mercury retrogrades in water signs, and
oh,
we have eclipses in Virgo,
mhm.
and that which is another Mercury situation, right? And so, especially in a moment where no one is sure what real even is anymore. We're in the Saturn Neptune moment where Saturn's job is to create tangibility and Neptune's job is to dissolve everything. And so there's this inherent tension between what even am the world. And so in that space where AI is on the scene and hallucinating everything, but not everything. And so which of the things are what's even going on here? And media outlets are constantly spinning you, and everything is all opinion all the time. None of the information stuff is making a lot of good sense under
Yeah.
this kind of aspect, and so or under these guys generally, and that is ongoing. We get that all year, right?
Okay.
And so, in that kind of space, there is something here that is going to be really good. Like, so I've mentioned spinning your own narrative. We've talked about that on this show in the past. And then also, there's something here about like working out your deals and patterns and ways of understanding things, especially through failure modes, right? What didn't work is a good way to sort
Uh-huh.
of get rid of all the possibilities. We have too many possibilities available right now. And so whatever didn't work is going to be
Yeah.
good information for us to figure out how to move things forward.
Yeah. Backing away from untruth is how.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah, sure. Don't know
right.
what the truth is, but we know what untruth can be. And so, like, let's not do that. And that leaves us with a smaller set of options.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So we've got this pile up in January. All these conjunctions with the sun.
You said Mercury is there too, right?
Hmm.
In
Mercury
January.
is also there. Yeah. The
So
Mercury Cazimi doesn't happen until Aquarius. It happens in the very beginning of Aquarius, and that is actually conjunct Pluto. So, again, looking at power plays here, you know,
uh-huh.
and the sun is involved as well, right? So, you know, and the other thing that I was going to say about the information thing is that there's a lot of bait and switch going on, you
Yeah.
know, and so with the sun shining so brightly and then everything else happening behind the scenes, then this is a time when deception is actually pretty easy to do.
Hmm.
And insofar as that is a strategic play for you, then you might be able to throw up a flashbang while you do or make a deal over here in a backroom situation.
Hmm.
There's a little distraction happening over here, and you get something done so that now it's locked in, and then now you're in a better position. So there's that kind of thing you can do.
Yeah. Like everyone's looking at Jupiter while all this stuff's happening back here.
Mm.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Don't
Secret
even worry
deals.
about that. We don't,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so
Okay.
then as everybody moves into Aquarius, then we start to touch the ruler of the underworld as well, you know?
Hmm.
And so now we're really talking power plays. And we're talking, you know, when I've been thinking about Pluto in Aquarius. Pluto in Aquarius is sometimes associated with aliens, and so we have definitely seen a lot of uptick in UFO stuff or UAP or whatever you want, however you feel about that. Like that sort of stuff has been on for sure. But I am going all robots with it, you know. And I think of robot intelligence as alien intelligence. And I've actually been reading more. I've recently been reading Dawn by Octavia Butler,
Oh yeah.
which is a story where there's a war that wipes out the world, but then the aliens come and they save some of the humans, and then because they are saved by the aliens, then they have to become part alien, and that is
Yeah.
the thing that moves forward. And I think that there's something prescient about that, and so I've been thinking about that style of life. Like, what would happen if an alien intelligence came down and was like, no, 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 I know what's really best here. And you all are going to do what I think we should do. And you don't have the choice to just do it the human way anymore. So, that kind of understanding, I think, is really resonant with Pluto in Aquarius. And so,
Ah.
as planets move into from backroom dealing into Aquarius and start touching the Lord of the Underworld, then I think that there is something there about how those deals interface with the information landscape or the power plays that are inherent in the horror of machinery.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, Pluto and Aquarius is that the horrors of invention, of technological innovation.
Hmm.
Yeah, interesting. And then we have, yeah, the Mercury there. So then
Hmm.
after that is the next major thing, the Neptune and Saturn conjunction.
Yeah, so after those things happen, then we get into February, and Saturn and Neptune both move into Aries at effectively the same time. And then on February 20th, we get the conjunction of Saturn and Neptune, and that is exact. It's been close for a while, and in 2025 we got within like 5 minutes or something like that, so the same degree but not quite, just like milliseconds away, you know what I mean? And then but so we've been living in Saturn Neptune for a long time, but we finally do get that conjunction, that perfect conjunction of Saturn and Neptune together at the very beginning of Aries. You said you had a chart for that. Did you want to pull that chart up and take a look at it, or
Yeah.
there's
So this is the chart for about the exact conjunction of um, Saturn and Neptune at 0 degrees 45 minutes. Um, and I couldn't get any tighter than that, but this seems to be about the time with Gemini rising in Washington, D.C.
On February 20th, 2026.
Yeah, so on February 20th, 2026, we have Saturn and Neptune conjoined exactly at 0 degrees 45 minutes Aries at around noon Eastern time. And so the last time there was uh, a conjunction in the early degrees of Aries of Saturn and Neptune was at 593 BC. And that was at the beginning of the axial age, when the rules for religion changed dramatically. That's around the time that the Buddha was born, Lao Tzu, Zarathustra, um, and Plato. These were all people born, in that axial age time period. They call that, the scholars call this time period the axial age. So the last time this happened, it was at the beginning of the axial age, and it was actually at 2 degrees of Aries, is what the chart that I saw said. So this is actually more important
Because it's
even.
zero.
It's at 0 degrees Aries, and Aries is this very important point. 0 degrees tropical Aries is a world point where anything that happens at that point is important for the entire world. So I'm seeing, with Neptune and Saturn, it's like the rules for religion are changing on a fundamental level. And we're going to be, we might not even see everything that will be in our lifetime. Probably will be many, many, centuries of transformations of this happening. Um, but they do say that the conjunction that happened, the Saturn Jupiter conjunction that happened in 2020, is a really, traditionally that's a time for a world prophet to be born. So I would imagine that one of these kids born in December 2020 will be, maybe multiple of them will start new cults that may turn into religions. Um, but this is an interesting chart. We've got Gemini rising. And so, and we've got all these planets up here in the 10th house, in the 10th house zone, in the 11th, 10th, and ninth. Um, what do you see with this chart?
Well, the first thing that I notice here is that so if we are focusing on Saturn and Neptune in Aries, then that is ruled by Mars. We can notice that Mars
Mhm.
is in early or is in late Aquarius, making a square to Uranus. So immediately that looks kind of chaotic. We can
Yeah.
also notice that this is in between eclipses. So the first in our series of eclipses that's going to happen in Aquarius and Leo has just happened. I think that was on the 17th of February. And so we've got an eclipse there. And then a couple of days later, we've got this conjunction of Saturn and Neptune. And then about, what is this, 10 days after that, then we've got another eclipse in Virgo. It'll be a lunar eclipse in Virgo. And so all of that looks like it is strongly steeped in uncertainty and surprises or unexpected things, right? So
Hmm.
Mars square to Uranus is going to bring up surprises and unexpected left field dynamics, things kind of like it feels like it's especially with that moon in Aries there also, it's shooting from the hip. Things are happening in a kind of chaotic and strange way that you wouldn't necessarily see coming, especially since it is so dark in the way that eclipses can be dark. And I often think about eclipses as being like a seesaw because they happen on one side and then the other. And so there's something that is inherently shifting about that. So all of this feels like it is kind of strange and it really leans into the unexpected. Now, one thing that I can say here about that is even though that feels a little bit potentially upsetting or scary or something like that, we can see that the moon in Aries is the next aspect that the moon is going to make is a square to Jupiter in Cancer. So it looks like it's going to be all right to me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
nice.
Right. But then we have this we have this Gemini rising. So there's this focus on words, on communication, in
Mhm.
the chart. And then we have this the ruler, Mercury, debilitated in Pisces. Um,
Yeah, and getting ready to station retrograde too.
yeah. So that's like it's a kind of a debilitated, it's not a great Mercury, not great for talking, not great for communication. It's mute.
It looks to me like it's talking very loudly, but maybe not saying very much.
Hmm.
Mm. So like the AI religion, the religion of the LLMs.
Yeah, I mean, I would not, I would be very surprised if AI didn't create new religions.
No, for sure.
Yeah, I wonder if there were any LLMs that were started in December of 2020.
Yeah, sure.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's how would you find a natal chart for I
Hmm.
would probably look at publication more than like when did ChatGPT 3 I think was the big public one. Like launch date is what I would look at for that probably.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, like it it definitely looks like there is plenty of confusion and uncertainty here. This
Yeah.
doesn't look like the kind of thing. So I mentioned before that I have started a cult, and this is, like that's kind of tongue in cheek or whatever. But there actually is a course that you can check out called Which Way to Wisdom. Most of it is available for free on YouTube, but it is the central tenet of that is that I don't know what's going on. And so the most important thing is to get good at asking questions. So because this looks like it is so deeply uncertain at all times, then being like, I have found the one true religion is a foolhardy mistake. Rather, asking questions that make you less wrong, rather than trying to be right, trying to be less wrong, seems like the more appropriate approach here.
Right. Yeah, and my uh the spiritual teacher of my spiritual teacher, he would often uh he would say to folks that they should back away from untruth, right? You're not positing what the truth is, you're backing away from what is false. We don't know what that truth is, but we know what's not true. And I
Mhm.
think that goes along very well with this chart as well. And the other thing is, there's a lot of talk about like the age of Aquarius and what that means. A lot of different ideas about that. But one of these ideas that's more from a um, the esoteric Western perspective is that we are in now the age of Aquarius, as opposed to the age of Pisces, when the age of Pisces was all about the one true religion, right? Christianity or Islam, or even in India, there's this Bhakti movement. It's about devotion to that one true God. Whereas now in this Aquarius era, and you could also see that just as like we're in the age of air, or the era of air, and with Neptune and Saturn changing, it's like the laws of religion changing. It's more about the individual, and there's so much confusion in the world. We don't know what the truth is, so we're each finding our own way to that truth by backing away from what's false. I mean, that makes sense to me.
Yeah. And, one of the ways I think that is appropriate to think with spiritual teaching is that it is kind of necessarily on its head a little bit. And
Mm.
so, if we think about that chart, which had Mercury in Pisces getting ready to station retrograde, that doesn't look like it's a super clear Mercury, but it
Right.
does look like it is ready to operate with metaphor or riddle or something like this. It's the idea of like if you meet the Buddha in the road, kill him. The first thing that happens when you hear that is like, oh, what? And so you have to kind of unpack that for a little bit, right?
Yeah, it's a
One of the
koan.
ways, say again?
A koan.
Yeah, 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 exactly. And so one of the ways that I like to think about, if it's impossible to know what is true, if it's impossible to know what facts even are anymore in this kind of thing, then how can we come to know things? We still have to operate as if we know things. So how are we going to do that? And so my approach is to move back into or to retreat into old wives' tales and aphorisms and things
Uh-huh.
of this nature, right? So they describe a shape or a pattern that can be used. It's malleable enough. This is a super mutable chart, right? With that Mercury and Pisces, and with the Gemini rising, and Mercury's getting ready to turn around, and that whole like adaptability, shiftability thing, right? So aphorisms are useful, like you know, one bad apple spoils the bunch is not simply about apples, right? So you can use that in many contexts. And so when I am searching for something that might be called truth, that is where I prefer to land. I prefer to land on something that is less concretely factual and more about working a pattern or a shape.
Yeah, and we can also see this with what aspects um, Mercury is making. There's
Mhm.
this applying conjunction with Venus, so it's like this poetry, this art is the
Mhm.
communication happening, and then that Jupiter there is trining. They're making an applying trine to Venus, who then will conjunct Mercury. So, and even though Mercury's going to go retrograde, so then he will also then catch up to the retrograde Jupiter. But for now, it's like Venus is the one who's translating the light. She's bringing the light from Jupiter to Mercury too. So like that wisdom, and that it's that Venus, the metaphor, the poetry, the art.
Mhm.
So
And
that's
Venus is exalted in Pisces.
yeah.
This is a pretty good look for Venus, all told.
Nice.
Right. So we're looking at this new religion is going to be a lot more focused on art, on feeling, on beauty, these kind of things.
Yeah, shout out to the Taoist sex magic, you know?
Hell yeah. Um, okay.
So what does that mean for us, like as an everyday person in February with, all this stuff going on? What should we be focusing on?
Well, so the point I just made about aphorisms, I think, is a pretty good one.
Yeah.
Um, and then there's this sense of agency as well, right? Like centering one's own agency
Yeah.
on the under. So it's not going to be a good idea to defer to leadership and authority at a time like this.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
That's good
And
advice.
so this is a time to lean on, but leaning on yourself is also a move that becomes problematic. We're going to see eclipses in Leo and Aquarius beginning this year. And so there's this moment later in the year, I think it's in July, when the sun moves right into Leo and then conjoins Jupiter. And so Sun Jupiter conjunction is supposed to be like all the yes, and especially in Leo, like I can do it, right? But
Yeah.
then there's an eclipse there in that moment, and
Mhm.
Jupiter and Leo is hanging out with the South Node the whole time. And so there's this sense of like draining away the victory of
Right.
oneself, right?
Mhm.
And so I wouldn't say that because the authorities are corrupt, then I am the only authority. That's not the move either, right? And so what I would think here is a kind of flexibility, a sense of, well, let's see.
Okay.
It's there's a good story about, let's see if I can tell the story here. There's a farmer who has a son, and the son gets, let's see, the farmer has a horse, and the horse gets away. And the neighbor's like, "Oh man, what bad luck that is." And the farmer's like, "Yeah, well, we'll see if it's good luck or bad luck." And then the authorities come, and they're taking everybody's horses. And so this guy doesn't have a horse to give. And then so he's like, "Well, I dodged that one." And then it's like, "Oh, that's such great luck." And he's like, "Okay, well, maybe not." And then the horse comes back, and so it's like, "Oh, this is great luck." And then it's like, "Well, yeah, maybe not." And then the horse kicks his son and injures the son. And so then it's like, "Oh man, this is terrible luck." And he's like, "Well, maybe not." And then
Mhm.
it's time for the draft. And then the son doesn't go off into the military to get killed in a war because he's injured by the horse. And so it's this sense
Yeah.
of like, well, maybe not. Let's see
Okay.
what good fortune actually is. And so reserving judgment, I think, is a strong play at a
Mhm.
time when the judgmental one, Saturn, is not empowered at all. There is not good judgment going on here. And so, even though Saturn in Aries is going to be very quick to judge in that very quick Aries way,
Sure.
that's probably not the move. That's probably
Right.
not the wisest move that we have available to us.
He's going to be quick to judge, but it's going to be bad judgment.
There it is.
Okay. Nice.
Okay. So, but the better to go with the Venus during this time period and focus on like the more ethereal beauty and feelings and these kind of things rather than
Yeah,
the purity of Saturn or the sun or like that. Yeah.
right. Venus doesn't have any real standout moments this year, but Venus in Pisces looks pretty good. Venus is going to be in Taurus a little bit later in the year,
Yeah.
and then this is a beautiful evening time Venus, which is going to be far enough away from the sun that you're going to be able to see Venus in the sky and this kind of thing. Like Venus in Taurus looks good this year, and Venus, Saturn and Mars are really loud this year. It's a very malefic kind of year. And Jupiter gets all the juice drained out of him by the South Node. And so you don't get very much of that beneficence. And Venus doesn't have any real standout moments or anything like that. But when the Venus is cute, there's some cute Venus to be had. So, lean into some of that pleasure, art. Um, you know, uh, Even when the world seems crazy, sriracha is still delicious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
you know?
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Spending time in nature.
Spending time
Yeah.
together. Venus is very good for cooperation, togetherness, harmony, these kinds of things, you know, leaning into, I think about harmony as everything in right relationship to one another. And so that I think is a really good way to play Venus to your advantage.
Yeah. Okay, so we got the Saturn Neptune conjunction, which I think is kind of like the biggest moment of the year. I mean, in some ways, it's a big moment for like centuries and millennia. Um,
Hmm.
but it might not necessarily affect everybody all that much in their lifetime, also. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Hmm.
Um, but the other big moments this year, we've got the eclipses happening,
Hmm.
and then the Uranus going into Gemini for good. Um,
Hmm. Hmm.
but yeah, what
In
else
April.
in April? Yeah. So yeah, should we get into a little bit of, we kind of have taken up a lot of the time in just talking about January and the Neptune Saturn conjunction, and that is most of the winter quarter. But could we
Hmm.
go through the rest of the year kind of real quick and see what else is going on?
Sure, sure. Yeah, so you mentioned eclipses there. So we've got some eclipses that are eclipses happen whenever there's a new moon or a full moon that is close to the nodes. And so that's going to be within about 15 degrees or so of the nodes. And so the nodes this year are straddling Virgo and Pisces and then moving into Leo and Aquarius. And so we actually, for both times that we get eclipses, whenever the sun is close to one of those points, then and we get a new moon or a full moon, then we get both of those eclipses. So first we'll get an eclipse in Aquarius and then one in Virgo, and then a little bit later we'll get one in Pisces. We'll get one in Virgo. We'll get a solar eclipse in Virgo, and then one in what's opposite to Aquarius, Leo. So, so we get four different kinds of eclipses this year, right? And so that looks like it is going to be difficult on the authority figures. It looks like it's going to be. I don't necessarily think that the Virgo Pisces eclipses, fortunately, they're not strongly configured to other planets very much. And that is cute. Love to see that. That means that it's unlikely to be big flashbang in your face moments unless you have personal planets in that area. It's probably not going to be on the world stage as much while we're doing Pisces Virgo eclipses. This past year, we had a Pisces eclipse that was strongly configured to Saturn, for example, and like kind of all hell breaks loose with that kind of thing. We don't have to deal with that. I'm about that.
Yay.
Um, as we're right, as we move into Leo and Aquarius eclipses, I don't like the look of those very much. They look like they are mm, so alongside Saturn and Aries, and alongside, so one of the things that's going to happen now with Pluto and Aquarius is every time the sun, who is the central authority figure, the sovereign, moves into Leo, which is the sun's domicile, then we're going to see an opposition to Pluto. And so there's a kind of I think about Pluto sometimes as like the funhouse mirror. So it gives you a distorted image of what's going on. So there's a distortion of how authority or sovereignty can function. So that looks very corruptible to me, especially when if we look at Saturn as being super corruptible in Aries as well. So it are we looking at last gasps of empire here where the top down authorities are like doing everything that they can do to grab onto that power, and it's slipping away and they're just getting more and more authoritative with it? That's kind of what that looks like to me. It doesn't look fun or easy. It does look like the cracks begin to show more and more throughout that.
Yeah.
Then you mentioned Uranus and Gemini. So Uranus is in April is going to move into Gemini and is going to stay there for keepsies. So we get Gemini moving through, or Uranus moving through Gemini for the next 7 years or so. There is this looks like it wants to be a really big deal um, for the United States, which
Yeah.
then looks like it wants to be a really big deal for the world at large. So we're going to get our very first conjunction of Mars and Uranus there in Gemini, which is also baked into the United States natal chart. And so that is looks like it wants to be a moment. It looks like a warring kind of moment for the United States. If we think about um, we're in a spot where the United States has been the top dog for a long time. And so everybody is coming from that for that position, especially China looks like it wants to make a play for that top spot. And so then, there's a descendancy that it might be associated with that and a breakup of that empire. Now, I don't necessarily think that China is going to just be like, we're the top dog now. I think that the like breakup happens for a lot of people during this time. But Mars and Uranus together in Gemini looks like it wants to change the shape of how aggression works. And aggression is such a major part of how the American imperial project operates. Mars Uranus in Gemini looks like more innovation as far as like drone warfare is concerned and this kind of thing. Drone warfare and such is such a like Uranus or Ukraine was supposed to just fold in 2022. And here we are coming up on 4 years of conflict and fighting between Russia and Ukraine has not folded yet. And so that shows us something about the way that empire and imperial military authority is likely to operate in the future. And the United States is in Russia's position there, And so everybody in the world is watching that happen and being like, what can I do with these drones now? Like if you're Venezuela, you've got to be looking at that and being like, all right, so what's the move now? You know what I mean? So I would expect that to show up and be a really big deal here. Um, so Uranus and Gemini looks like innovations. Like that Uranus and Gemini is also going to make a trine to Pluto and Aquarius. So looks like really innovative language and information models and this kind of thing. The robots get really strong during that time. And we can we can look through history and see how technological development has largely been driven by wartime efforts.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so between the war and the porn, we're going to get a lot of strong technological development. Like the VCR is a good,
Right.
innovation that is associated with that. So, this looks like a moment where all of that stuff wants to level up in a real big way this year,
Okay.
probably faster than we are prepared for uh, driving it, like
Yeah.
it's going to get away from us a little bit this year.
Okay. And then we can also be sure of major changes in the US's uh, place in the world as well with this Gemini return of the Uranus return to Gemini.
hmm Yeah, yeah. The last one was World War II. Or it was at times the United States' involvement in World War II, more
Yeah.
specifically. And that was a real big deal. And then and Hiroshima and Nagasaki were associated with a Mars-Uranus conjunction in Gemini. So,
Right.
and the twin bombs and all that, right? So,
Yeah. Right. And then
uh,
before that, we had the Civil War. Before
correct.
that, the American
And the
Revolution.
Civil War is associated with a Saturn-Neptune conjunction in Aries as well.
Oh, Okay.
So we've
So
got
for fun.
so these next 7 years, this is kind of this is like the other thing about life and things changing is that sometimes you don't notice how things are changing. Sometimes things happen very quickly, like the lockdowns happened in like a week,
Yeah.
and that was a major change for everybody
Mhm.
in the world, pretty much. But sometimes like you don't notice like the slow changes that happen. But when you look back, it's like there have been some major changes since 2016, since 2012.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Um, but we are now, this is the year where um, Neptune moves back into Aries for good. And Uranus moves into Gemini for good.
Mhm.
We have all these things. So like this is a year where you can expect things to be changing in a big way. And these next 7 years is like by 2032, we're going to be living in an entirely different world.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I think that I think it's going to be really appropriate to look at the period from 2016 to 2032
Yeah,
Mhm.
as that's the transition period. And I don't know
right.
what happens after that exactly, but I think that that is the period where um, everything looks different on the global scale. The things that seemed Ursula Le Guin has this great quote about sure capitalism seems infallible or like you can't do anything about it, but
Uh-huh.
feudalism felt that way before,
Yeah.
and so and now and look at us now, right? And
Mhm.
so we are in that moment where the thing that seemed like it was here to stay forever and there's just no way around it, then once we get to 2033, then it's like, how did we even live that way? You know? So
Yeah.
my guess is that so right now in 2026, we are still in the middle, we're in the throes of change, you know?
Right.
So this is a lot of what I think about, like centralizing that agency, just being very cognizant of the need to adapt to a new environment. And I, as a person, have a kind of ability to adapt quickly in the way that a startup can adapt quickly, where a major corporation takes time to turn, right?
Mhm.
Right. Yeah.
And so, as a result of that, I, as a small individual, have an advantage
Yeah.
that governments don't have. And so, if I can centralize my own agency for my own life, then I have some opportunities here that may not have ever been possible in human history before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And as long as we are staying nimble and not getting caught up in these ossified ways of thinking, because at these times it's also very easy to just get sucked up into these larger egregores or these larger
Mm-hmm.
um, group minds, or you get all of our energy sucked up by some charismatic leader or anything like that, or just stuck in the same rut that it's been. And people who are stuck in the same rut that it's been for the last 50 years or 20 years, you're not going to be able to take advantage of the changes happening, or at least even move with them, because the winds are changing.
Mm-hmm. I think moving with them is a really good way to think with it, and taking advantage of the, I have been doing a bunch of web development on my website recently. And one of the things that I did was I signed up for Google Analytics so that I can see what people are doing on my website and maybe optimize and make a better product is what I'm trying to do. And as I was signing up for that, then it came time for the terms and conditions, and I just accepted them shits without reading them, because who has that kind of time? And because I am aware that they're already spying on, like, fuck, yeah,
Yeah.
go ahead, dude, spy.
Yeah.
I can't stop you, right?
Mhm.
What I would like is a cut. I
Mhm.
can't stop you from spying, but I would like a cut of the power that you get from spying.
Yeah, right.
Right. And that's what the Google Analytics is, right?
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
And so, how can we leverage that kind of thinking in AI space, in lawfare, in the way
Mhm.
that in the way that we interact in government or institutions or anywhere else, corporations, anywhere in the world? How can we take this new world that's here, that is being born, and how can we leverage that toward the things that we actually toward creating the more beautiful world that our hearts know is possible.
Yeah.
Sure. But then also it's like I think it's important to not be too sure about what this new world is either, you know?
Yeah.
Backing away from untruth again. It's like,
Hmm.
yeah, is like a digital ID and digital currency and like one world order the direction we're going in, or like smaller things, like
Well, or even there are these fantasies that all of the tech billionaires grew up with about like the Isaac Asimov science fiction
Hmm.
future, flying cars and trips to Mars and robots that are actually intelligent, which
that are supposed to make your life easier.
yeah, or like you know like what if all of that is actually just a bunch of fantasy and is not actually going to happen? You know, like what you know like we have these preconceived notions about what the future is, but still don't have flying cars. Trip to Mars doesn't look feasible. This AI doesn't look like it's actually intelligent. It's just a LLM. It's
Mhm.
autocorrect. It's just regurgitating info. You know, it's like so like we have these preconceived notions about what the future is, but it's hard to. I don't think we're gonna know until we're there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you ever know anything? You know,
Right. Yeah.
Not
that
I.
we do have an opportunity to help shape the future as it comes out.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And so
And
I would
yeah.
say that that is the most important thing to do, is to participate in shaping the new future.
Mhm. Okay. So is there anything else major happening this year that we want to talk about before?
Um, Do we need to talk about it? I don't think that we need to talk about it, but since we're doing the year ahead, it's probably worth mentioning that Venus retrograde in Scorpio is going to happen this year.
Mhm.
Um, and that feels significant to me. That the main I got to be real. The main reason that feels significant to me is because that is the first Venus retrograde that I reported on as an astrologer. And so I am getting old. And so that is the main thing that I've noticed about it. I haven't really paid that much attention to it, but that is happening this year. That there will be a Venus retrograde in Scorpio, and that'll be interesting to think with. I haven't really thought that much about it, but folks should be aware that that's going to happen in April or in October and November this year,
Mm.
and
Okay,
we'll get to
cool.
that when it's time to do the fall forecast.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and then we'll do another whole like astrological year ahead kind of thing in
Oh yeah.
Aries season for the spring equinox. Um, but yeah, I think this was good. There's a kind of a lot happening this year and this winter,
Hmm.
especially with that big pileup in Capricorn and then the Neptune Saturn conjunction. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, is there anything else you'd like to talk about before we wrap up?
Anything coming up for you, or classes or anything like that?
You can, if you want to learn astrology, you can go to ZamboniFunk.com. There's a fundamentals course there called Astrology from the Ground Up. I am very proud of it. I think that it has been, people say frequently that it is the most relatable astrology course that they've ever taken. And I'm
Nice.
pretty excited to hear that from them. I also created a course called Which Way to Wisdom, which is effectively, so if astrology works, then what does that imply about the nature of the universe in general? And what can that tell us about how the world is structured and how we can best operate in that world? And so that comes bundled in with Astrology from the Ground Up, or you can get it separately. It's super cheap. It's $20. So you can get those at ZamboniFunk.com. There's new music going to be coming out on January 3rd.
Nice.
So that is also here's an election if you want. January 3rd. It's got all the
Yeah.
Capricorn stuff, and then the moon's going to come by and hang out with Jupiter in Cancer. So a Jupiter moon conjunction in Cancer, opposite to all that stuff in Capricorn, looks like it's very good for partnership or starting a new thing under that
Thank
sky.
you.
So
Yeah,
um,
Jupiter and Moon together, that's wealth also.
yeah, like, are you the I always say that like Jupiter in a dignified position is electing on easy mode. Just wait till the moon is in Cancer and then
Yeah.
go. You know,
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
put the moon with Jupiter and call it a day. So yeah, that's what I'm going to be doing. But there's new music. So I do a lot of stuff, including art, and so that is going to be available there.
Yay. Wonderful. And thanks for that election pro tip.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. So easy.
Yes. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. This was really fun, as always, Zamboni, and
Hmm.
we'll see you again soon.
Yeah, can't wait. See y'all later.
Cheers.